All right, let's bring in our powerhouse panel with Republican strategist and attorney Amanda Mackey, political analyst Mark Halperin, constitutional and civil rights attorney and Newsmax contributor Amir Benno, and National Advisory Board member at Project 21, Christopher Arps. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us again today. So let's start with Alan Weisselberg. He surrendered to the Manhattan DA yesterday and later pleaded not guilty. So he's facing 15 felony counts, including a scheme to defraud and grand larceny. Amir, break this down for us. What do these charges mean, and what could it mean for him? Is he going to jail for this?
Well, that's the threat. And what it means is that they're trying to put pressure on Donald Trump. They're putting pressure on Weisselberg to flip on his superiors in the Trump organization. This is not the type of criminal activity that typically would get brought by a DA. It's just not something that typically gets prosecuted. We're talking about $1.5 million or so over the course of the last 15 years in possible fringe benefits, not paying taxes on cars and apartments and private school tuition, fringe benefits. Not typically brought. This seems like an effort to politically kneecap Donald Trump, to sideline him, at least to cast a pall over him of criminality, since they can't actually get the man himself. They'll get his organization, get the Trump name. And Cy Vance, who's the DA, is 1 foot out the door. So I think he wanted to do that before he makes his exit.
Yeah, Amanda, as Amir said, this isn't typical, right? It's not normally, they don't go through all of this. So what do you think the next step here is for him and the Trump organization?
Well, I think they're going to make this purely political, as they already have. President Trump has said this is a political witch hunt, and his followers are very much of that opinion. They've always been of that mindset that conservatives are, they're the ones that they seek, the government seeks out. This is a role for the DA that is supposed to be nonpartisan. And for years, they've been going after President Trump. Even after he is no longer in office, they continue to pursue him while shootings have gone up almost 200% in New York City. Robberies have gone up 30% in New York City just over the last year. And what are they focused on? They're focused on a former president. This plays right into the hands of President Trump to be able to say to his supporters, look, they're at it again. They will never stop.
Yeah, you have to wonder if they're so concerned about him running in 2024, and that's why they just keep doing this. I want to move on to the Biden administration. So Democrats, they expressed their displeasure with the Supreme Court decisions over the past year, and then they accused justices of doing severe damage to the political system. Mark, one of those decisions made was the court upheld the Arizona election law. Why are Democrats obsessing and packing the court?
Well, they want an activist court to do the things that the left wants done. The right has oftentimes searched for the same thing. In this case, the court not only made a decision on these 2 Arizona provisions about whether ballots should be counted in certain circumstances, but they've really set the signal to the states who are now enacting other restrictions that those things will probably be seen as okay, that states can set their own rules for how they want their elections to be run. So this is a pretty big disappointment for Democrats, the conservative majority saying states can set their own rules. And now, as you see that fight going on in the states, Democrats had hoped the court would bail them out. They won't.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris, Speaker Nancy Pelosi said the court's decision in the Arizona case was unprecedented assault on voting rights. What do you make of her comments?
Well, I think they're just highly partisan comments, of course. The Supreme Court made the correct decision yesterday that you should vote where you the precinct that you're registered in, and it should outlaw ballot harvesting. And I think it's really ironic that the Democrats' S1 bill for the People Act, which was a federal takeover of the election process, included ballot harvesting, which the Supreme Court now says is illegal. So I think it was a great ruling yesterday. I think voting should be controlled by the states and the local officials instead of at the federal level.
Yeah, a lot of times, Chris, you're right that when the federal government gets involved, it becomes a mess. So I think a lot of people agree. Amir, from a legal perspective, what would this mean for checks and balances in the country? Wouldn't that just be thrown out the window?
Well, this decision, I think, reinforces principles of federalism, which is saying that states can make their own decisions. I mean, H.R. 1, S1, as Chris was saying, was they were trying to federalize election law, which typically is something that the states regulate. When they couldn't succeed on that, they were putting their eggs in the basket of the Supreme Court federalizing election law by having the federal court system invalidate these state laws. And so by saying that the federal court wasn't going to invalidate these laws, they kept the power with the states to set their own laws to promote election integrity. It was the right decision, and I think it was a win for the Constitution.
Yeah, absolutely. We were talking about the rise in crime. Amanda, you were mentioning that. There continues to be this rise. I want to show you. So here in New York City, a woman was assaulted in broad daylight. It's crazy. You can see it there. Look at that. He just jumps up. I mean, can you imagine? You're walking in broad daylight. You're on a street. It's supposed to be safe. Also, a postal worker was assaulted. Amanda, shouldn't we be more focused on crime across the country rather than packing the court? We have a rise in crime. We have inflation. We have everything. We have a border crisis, but yet they're focused on packing the court.
They're focused on a lot of priorities that are very self-serving and would help them to elevate their policies that they can't get across because they aren't winning elections. Look, I know the House is controlled by the Democrats. We have a 50-50 Senate, but they do not have a mandate as broadly as they believe they do. So yes, they should be focused on things that actually matter to people, like safety. And I think that's why you see in the mayoral race in New York, the person who is leading as of right now, let's not talk about the election integrity issues there, but the person that is leading right now is a former police officer, former Republican, someone who supports the police, does not want to defund the police. And this is really important going into 2022. This is going to be a key issue, people's security, whether it's domestic or even the homeland security on the border. People are worried when those migrants make it to the southern border and the catch and release program is in place. Where do you think they're going to go? They're going to go to all 50 states. When I worked in Alaska, you had the same issue. You had people all the way up in Alaska, illegals working there because they go where the jobs are.
Yeah, I think that's what a lot of people are saying, right? You have everybody coming over the border. So the crime isn't just on the rise in big cities, but it's on, the rise in smaller states, smaller cities. So I think that you bring up a really good point. Chris, just a final question to you. Why is defunding the police still, an event? Why it's still a topic for Democrats with all the surge in crime?
I think they think it resonates with their voters, especially African-American voters. I mean, here in St. Louis, last year we set a 20-year record for homicides, and it's only June of 2021, and we're almost on pace for that again. So we see the squad members, Cori Bush, who is from St. Louis, she talks about defunding the police. Our mayor recently cut $4 million out of the police budget. So they think this is a winning issue for them, even though crime in our cities are burning down around us.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you, panel. We'll talk to you in a little bit.